Are you ready for some smart, plain talk on politics, Israel, and the law? It's the Andrew Parker Show. Let's roll. Welcome to episode 414 of the Andrew Parker Show. And I recommend that you go to theandrewparkershow.com. theandrewparkershow.com to find our website, to subscribe, to learn more, to follow us, and like us online, and also connect with us on YouTube for sure. Episode 414, as we talk politics, Israel, and the law, and we are going to focus again on the Jewish state of Israel, a beacon, a light unto the nations, both on how to have peace and live side by side in peace, which they have done with neighbors who have hated them, but which they have done for decades, including with Egypt and Jordan, and now some of the other Arab countries. But the state of Israel and the Jewish people who have lived in the land of Israel for hundreds, indeed thousands of years, well before Islam ever existed, well before Palestine was named by the Romans, when the Jews were attacked and thrown out of their land, which they had been in at that time for hundreds of years. The Romans renamed the land Philistina. And from that, Palestine. The Jews have inhabited the land, again, well before Islam ever existed, for hundreds, indeed thousands of years, and consistently and uniformly. Although they were exiled at times and defeated at times by the Babylonians, by the Romans. And even with the reestablishment of the State of Israel, recognized by the UN, something that the UN put out there for both Jewish Palestinians and Arab Palestinians, and the Jewish Palestinians accepted the partition plan of land for both peoples. And most of the Palestinians, quote unquote, at that time, living in the land of Israel, the land that the Jews lived in, as I say, consistently and uniformly for hundreds, indeed thousands of years, even before Islam existed. The Arab Palestinians rejected the partition plan. That was the first of many significant and real offers of peace and to create a Palestinian state, rejected time and time again with the mantra, we shall never recognize the state of Israel, and we will destroy the state of Israel. This is not just me giving you propaganda or a particular point of view. This can be read in the Constitution, in the creation documents of the Palestinian Liberation Organization, of the PLO. Yes, that organization that murdered 11 Olympic Jewish athletes at the 1972 Munich Olympics. That's just one heinous atrocity that they've committed over the years under the leadership of Yasser Arafat. Now, they've been more recently renamed as Fatah, the moderate leaders of the Palestinian people in comparison to Hamas. That's a simplistic way of looking at it. Certainly, Fatah is not moderate in any sense. And they still do not accept, nor do they want to live side by side in peace with the state of Israel. Indeed, they pay people who are under their governance for the murder of Jews, including Jewish, in particular Jewish civilians. They pay the families for suicide bombers who blow up school buses. And they continue to today. That's the moderate group. Hamas, as we saw on October 7th, but the blood on their hands ran full for many, many years before that. They were elected by the Palestinians in Gaza, by the Gazans, to be their leader. And it was their principles that the Gazans ascribed to and wrapped their arms around and elected in 2006. And for the next 18 or so years, they built tunnels. They brought in equipment, munitions, rockets. They created an arsenal in the Gaza Strip, in that small strip of land on the Mediterranean. And they used not food or materials or infrastructure for the benefit of their people. Hamas used it to create a terror state. And that's what has been next door, right on the border with Israel and populated civilian areas in Israel. And it all culminated after many rockets fired, thousands, into Israel proper. How long would the United States accept a group on their border firing rockets into their civilian populations? They wouldn't and they shouldn't, and neither would France, Canada, or the United Kingdom or Australia. For a minute, would they? No. And then on October 7, a massacre by Hamas, bloodthirsty. Literally, bloodthirsty. Heinous atrocities, burning of babies in front of their parents, beheadings of kids in front of their parents, murder of parents in front of their kids and grandparents, Holocaust survivors, burning of people alive, raping repeatedly, and then murdering. Or the worst future, being taken hostage, drawn down into these tunnels, murder tunnels. I know we talk about it and the words roll off of our tongue and are gone then. People hear it and they say, oh, terrible. No, this is real. Innocent civilians living their life. After war upon war upon war brought by the Arabs, brought by the Palestinians, after intifada and intifada against Israel and the Jews, who simply accepted the partition plan of the UN and then defended themselves for the next many, many decades. But not a once has Hamas nor the Palestinian Authority taken the concrete position of recognizing the state of Israel and of demilitarizing to live side by side in peace. Then there is the massacre of Jews. And what's the result? What is the response by the West? What is the response by the Democratic Party in the United States? Kill Jews and get your own state. Finally, they found the lock, the key to the lock to unlock that door to get their own state. No, it wasn't negotiation. It wasn't laying down arms. It wasn't agreeing to a peace deal. It wasn't accepting various offers of 98% of all the land that was through land swaps and looking over and poring over maps. No, it wasn't any of that. It wasn't engaging in economic exchange, building a culture and infrastructure for its people. It wasn't even launching Intifada. Intifada 1, Intifada 2, the current struggle. No. To get your own state, what you need to do is massacre. What you need to do is shake the world's eyes and moral conviction of what they see. Shake it to its core. Then you'll get your own state. That's the message. That's the message we're hearing over the last week since it's been announced by these morally... I had a show on morally bankrupt. It doesn't even begin to explain it. It's morally corrupt. And it's anti-Semitic to its core. The leaders of France, Canada, and the UK, and now Australia, all hard left governments, apparently the liberal thinkers, they don't consider this. They think they're doing a good deed by saying that they'll recognize the state of Palestine at the United Nations. And this is the right thing to do. But the Palestinian leaders, in particular Hamas, who took these horrific actions, atrocities, and who refuse a ceasefire, they are the ones who consistently refuse every ceasefire attempt Israel has accepted. And you say, well, it's because the terms have always been... No, the terms have been totally slanted to Hamas. But why should they accept a deal? They hold out long enough, Western Europe and the Democratic Party in the United States will cave. And sure enough, last week, it happened. And one of the leaders of Hamas has come out and specifically said, you can't interpret it any other way, that this recognition is a reward for slaughtering Jews. The editorial board of the Wall Street Journal said it just that way. And why did they say that? Well, let me quote what this Hamas leader told Al Jazeera, quote, "The powerful blow that was delivered to Israel on October 7 has yielded three very important historic achievements. First, it brought the Palestinian cause back. Second, well, and as it relates to the Palestinian cause being brought back, he says, why are all these countries recognizing Palestine now? Of all times, why now? It has to be because of what we did. Because why else would they? Of all the times, to the decades to recognize a Palestinian state, they do it now. And that's a good question. He goes on to say the overall outcome of October 7 forced the world to open its eyes to the Palestinian cause and to act forcefully in this respect. I mean, it's just disgusting. Disgusting what the liberal left is doing. Jewish blood runs in the street. Yeah, no ceasefire. The Israelis will do it. No ceasefire from Hamas. Humanitarian aid, it's being stolen by Hamas. They are causing the death of their people. And the pictures. And they'll continue to do it. Massacre as a political strategy is what Hamas lives for. But it just, as the Wall Street Journal puts it, last week they wrote this opinion piece. It is put so starkly and openly by Hamas to their now friends in France, Canada, the UK, Australia, the Democratic Party in the United States. Boy, and if they were just in power not long ago, and they could be in power very shortly again in Congress. I think we got to be a little bit careful giving them the reins of power again, because this is morally corrupt. There isn't a position to defend it. There are many ways to create a Palestinian state with people who want peace, not to create a terror state, which is what it would be if it were created today, because it is a terror state, and there is not one thing to suggest that, you know, recognizing a Palestinian state is going to suddenly make it no longer a terror state. In fact, they get what they're attempting to achieve through massacre. It'll double down on being a terror state. The article in the Wall Street Journal goes on to say the three Western countries, it's four now with Australia, are demanding that Israel accept a ceasefire deal. Problem is, Israel already has accepted every ceasefire deal. Hamas is the one who rejects it. And now Hamas won't even come to the table. Why should they? There's being a call for a Palestinian state. Not because they have accepted peace. No, because they have accepted massacre and slaughter, and it has caused them to get what they want. It has rewarded them. Not only will Hamas not come to the table, but they will continue to steal and undermine efforts by the U.S., by Israel in particular, to feed the Gazans. Never in human history, never, Has a country at war with another taken action like this to feed the other? Only Israel has done that. And they're vilified for it. Why? Because Hamas attacks and steals and takes and fuels its campaign of massacre by taking and undermines its own people, causing the blight and the starvation, if there is any, which is a big question mark. But tons and tons, thousands of tons of aid has been provided. Millions of pounds, like never before. And now, a word from our sponsors.
Are you a business owner? Are you losing sleep because you feel your partner isn't carrying their weight, or because you no longer share the same vision or values? Are you no longer comfortable going into your own office? Are you walking on eggshells in the company you built? This is Chris Daniels, founding partner of Parker Daniels Keyboard LLC, a premier litigation law firm headquartered in downtown Minneapolis. For more than 30 years, I've specialized in business litigation and have helped hundreds of business owners resolve troubling business disputes. As a former certified public accountant, I get to the heart of the dispute, including financial issues. Business divorce can be messy, time-consuming, and costly, but doing nothing can cost you a lot more. Not just money, but emotionally, physically, and in your personal life. If you and your business partner no longer see eye to eye, and you're eager to take a proactive approach and make a change, please call me at 612-355-4100 and schedule a consultation. Or visit our website at www.parkerdk.com.
Looking to reduce your tax liability and grow your portfolio? Consider Texas-based Texacoma Resources. They have been delivering results for over 40 years in energy investments. Investors may benefit with strategic advantages like depreciation, depletion, and drilling, but should consult their tax advisors for their specific situation. In addition, those who invest in August will receive a 5% investment bonus. Don't wait. Call True North Investment at 612-968-3442 to learn more. That's True North Investment, 612-968-3442. Texacoma Energy that works for you. No, Hamas prefers, why should they come to the table? Why should they do a ceasefire? Western Europe has blood on its hands. The Gazan blood is caused by Western Europe, by elements of the Democratic Party in this country, giving cover and open support for Hamas and its heinous acts. Now, Hamas believes they can manipulate Western opinion by blaming Israel for the hunger photos. Good job in allowing them to do that, because that will make sure there is no peace. And by the way, what about Egypt? Nobody even talks about Egypt. They have a locked door on the entire border with Gaza. No one can leave. Why are they being allowed to do that? That door should be opened to their Arab brothers. It isn't. It's completely locked down, and they don't care what happens to the people in Gaza. Why aren't they being called out? They're causing starvation, humanitarian crisis. Why aren't they being called out? The Israelis will move the citizens out of Gaza and fight Hamas, who won't leave. Destroy them and then rebuild. But no, Egypt won't let them out. Nobody calls them out. Egypt. So these great countries, France, UK, Canada, Australia, they call on Hamas to demilitarize. But this Hamas leader has made clear the weapons, quote, the weapons constitute the Palestinian cause. Surrendering our weapons means the end of the resistance and the end of the Palestinian cause. They will never surrender their weapons. They will never surrender. They will never engage in a ceasefire, particularly now when they're achieving objectives that are insane in and of themselves. But even if they weren't achieving objectives that they have never been able to achieve otherwise. And when I say the objectives are insane, creating a Palestinian state at this time is morally corrupt. It is creating a terrorist state. Gaza is a terrorist state, and they're being rewarded for engaging in terror, for killing civilians. 1,200 plus another 250 hostages, many of whom are dead. And we've recovered their body, many of whom are dead, and the bodies still have not been recovered. Finally, the same Hamas leader isn't going to put down his arms. In fact, he said just a few weeks after October 7th, he said, quote, "We will do this again and again." He also said, and this is very important, quote, "We are the victims. Therefore, nobody should blame us for the things we do." On October 7, on October 10, on October 1 millionth, everything we do is justified. And as the Wall Street Journal finishes its opinion piece, the editorial board, a great line. Maybe France, the UK, Australia, Canada can suggest that this fellow, this Hamas leader, when we make a state, he can be the foreign minister. Wonderful. Brilliant. Moral clarity, moral leadership in the world. Kill Jews, get your own state. Sadly, you would think that in this country we would understand a little bit better. But we don't. In fact, of late, polling shows support for Israel is sliding in the United States, particularly amongst younger generations, those who are going to lead the U.S. in a decade or two. The Arab states know this. The terrorists know this. The killers, the murderers, those who remind us of Dr. Joseph Mengele, who did experiments of the most heinous form during World War II for the Nazis, or atrocities that these terrorist groups have engaged in particular Hamas, that remind us of Nazi-like vicious attacks. Paying your population to murder Jews, civilians, to blow yourself up and murder as many Jews as possible. That is who France, the UK, Canada, Australia are supporting. not the Jewish state of Israel that has made peace with a number of countries in the region and held that peace. And the constant drumbeat of the media is the weapon being used. The Joseph Goebbels lies about the war in Gaza, lies about the engagement of the war by the IDF in Gaza and the rules of engagement. Lies, because it is the most humane and humanitarian carrying out of a war ever in terms of the rules of engagement. Accepting each ceasefire deal, pouring on more and more humanitarian aid despite the fact that Egypt keeps the back door locked so nobody can leave, and Gaza and Hamas steals the aid, shoots the Gazans, their people, and expects Israel to continue to feed the people. And all of this results in protests in the street against Israel, not against Hamas, not against the terrorists who engaged in these heinous acts. And the media, again, they use as their biggest weapon. And the media eats it up. Go after the Jews. Let's pour more fuel on the fire of anti-Semitism, because going after the Jews sells. And that's what they're doing. They don't check the facts. They don't care about truth. They just report it, particularly if it's something that is anti-Israel, anti-Jewish. So no wonder you have American attitudes towards Israel starting to change. There was a August Economist YouGov survey that provides a bit of a snapshot. 78% favor an immediate ceasefire. By a margin of more than 3-1, those who favor cutting military aid to Israel outnumber those who favor increasing it. Maybe that's why Amy Klobuchar voted with Bernie Sanders to halt aid to Israel. 3-1. People favor cutting military aid to Israel when it is fighting for its existence against an array of enemies on 7 fronts. It has won on none of those fronts, although it has debilitated the enemy on several. It has won on none of them, and they will simply rebuild. And then we'll be back for a bloodier battle. That is what the left does. That is what Chamberlain did in World War II. Very similarly, the appeasement strategy. And they're continuing to make the same mistake here. No, just a ceasefire. Everyone stop. We need peace. You're not going to get peace. I'm going to tell you that. You're not going to get peace. You heard from that Hamas leader. Again and again and again, we're going to do this. October 1,000,000th, he said, we're going to do this. Yeah, but this survey gets worse. 32% of Americans view Israel's response to Hamas as justified by the fanatical Islamic group's actions. But 41% see Israel's response as unjustified. Really? Oh, okay. You have your family burned alive, beheaded, raped, and then murdered. On a sunny morning when you're just living your life. And you're going to just allow them to continue to live next door to you when they say we're going to do it again and again and again. Well, that's what the poll shows. 43% of Americans say Israel is committing genocide in Gaza. 43%. Where do you think they would get that idea? Which is an absolute lie, an absolute falsehood. Where would they get that at 43%? Maybe from the media? Maybe the media reporting the drumbeat of it? And only 28% disagree. The remainder aren't sure. We have less than 30%, only 29% of Americans sympathize more with Israelis than with Palestinians. So these Palestinians break into neighborhoods, go to a music festival, murder kids, beautiful kids with futures. And it's Israel that's blamed. It's the Palestinians that are sympathized with. How is that possible? The scary thing is, as I said, support for Israel is especially low amongst younger adults, those that are going to lead the country in the future. Only 18% of Americans under 30 sympathize more with Israel than with the Palestinians. This is this victim sort of mentality, despite the fact that Israel has offered, in addition to the UN's partition plan in 1947, since and much more recently, 5 separate times, to carve out a full state for the Palestinians. They left Gaza and gave the land to the Palestinians. And what did they do? They created a terror state out of Gaza. Despite all of that, we sympathize more with Israel. And it's all based on the media coverage, the weapon that is being used. 41%, so 18% sympathize with Israelis, 41% have the opposite sentiment. And that's amongst Americans under 30. Even with Americans between 30 and 44, Palestinian sympathizers outnumber Israeli ones. And I don't think I've ever seen that before. With all the wars and all the issues and all the conflict, it took for Hamas to murder Jews in the street for people to sympathize with Hamas and the Palestinians and have the opposite sentiment toward Israel. It's incredible. And it's scary. And it's not true that Israel is the aggressor here. Israel is looking and has consistently for a solution. Palestinians will not recognize Israel and call for and demand the murder of Jews. Do you understand? Not all of them. And people will remind me, particularly in the Jewish community, most are wonderful neighbors, and their leaders have created this. Obviously, the breakdown between Democrats and Republicans is quite a bit different. One party almost fully, not fully, no, not fully, but almost fully supports the state of Israel, its right to exist, its right to live in peace, and will only support a Palestinian state when the Palestinian people have educated their youth and are ready to live side by side in peace. That does not exist today. And we would be creating a terror state. This is the Andrew Parker Show, episode 414. Thank you once again for joining us. And we will soon have Rudy Boschwitz, Senator Rudy Boschwitz, on the show. A retrospective of his life and what a life it has been. One of the finest public servants and businessmen, and really just moral leader who we could learn quite a bit from, and hopefully we will on the upcoming episode. So stay tuned. In the meantime, go to theandrewparkershow.com, theandrewparkershow.com, and subscribe and follow, and do so on YouTube as well. Thank you again for joining. And until our next episode, be kind to your neighbor. For more smart plain talk, go to theandrewparkershow.com. Learn about all of your listening and viewing options. And remember, all the great things are simple, and many can be expressed in a single word: freedom, justice, honor, duty, mercy, hope. This episode of The Andrew Parker Show is sponsored by Parker Daniels Keyboard and True North Private Investments. Mark Twain once quipped, "A lie can travel halfway around the world while the truth is still putting on its shoes. When you are lied about and it spreads, the resulting mayhem and destruction can be, and often is, disastrous." Hi, this is Andrew Parker, co-founder of the Parker Daniels Keyboard Law Firm. I recently handled a high-profile defamation lawsuit on behalf of a luxury home real estate agent whose business was decimated by falsehoods spread about him. After nearly 2 years of litigation and 2 weeks of trial, the jury came back with a verdict of more than $2 million for our client. Parker Daniels Keyboard. We litigate cases, we try cases, and we win cases. With a record of excellence in achieving extraordinary results, Parker Daniels Keyboard lawyers have consistently won huge verdicts for its clients in the areas of defamation, civil rights violations, regulatory battles, and intellectual property theft. For wise counsel and winning results, contact us at Parker Daniels Keyboard, premier law firm in downtown Minneapolis. Looking to reduce your tax liability and grow your portfolio? Consider Texas-based Texacoma Resources. They have been delivering results for over 40 years in energy investments. Investors may benefit with strategic advantages like depreciation, depletion, and drilling, but should consult their tax advisors for their specific situation. In addition, those who invest in August will receive a 5% investment bonus. Don't wait. Call True North Investment at 612-968-3442 to learn more. That's True North Investment, 612-968-3442. Texacoma Energy that works for you.